This presentation outlines the information learning activity that I have been involved in with the Year 4 class at my school. The students have studied a unit on reducing waste by using the 6 R's: recycle, reduce, reuse, refuse, respect and replenish. In my role as teacher librarian at the school, I was involved in planning the unit with a Year 4 teacher. I was able to work with the students during their library lesson for 1 hour each week, as well as being part of classroom sessions on a number of other occasions. Initially, the unit was planned to be completed in 4 weeks. However, due to a number of factors, such as other major events at school and the nature of the action research plan created by the students, the unit actually took about 8 weeks to complete. In this unit, students considered actions for a more sustainable future by exploring the 6 R's. We planned this unit in conjunction with the Green Lane Diary, an initiative of Green Cross Australia. Each year, Green Cross Australia run this program to increase awareness among young people that everyday actions can make a difference. All students are supplied with a diary that covers a vast range of topics about our planet and how we can protect it for the future. Students are also provided with a scrapbook in which they keep track of their achievements each day, talk about how they're living a greener life, and keep a record of their ideas and feelings about their research project. The unit was planned using the 5E instructional model, which is a learning cycle based on a constructivist view of learning. The objective of this model is to provide students with learning experiences that encourage them to explore, develop their own understanding of scientific concepts, and then relate those to other situations. This table shows the 5 stages of the model and how we linked them to the learning objectives and the learning and teaching sequence in this unit. In order to guide the students' questions throughout this unit, Barrel's KWHLAQ questioning framework was used. The overarching question posed by the teacher was, how can we reduce the amount of waste in our school in order to improve our environment? In the early stages, the students discussed what they already knew about the topic. Following this, they read the Green Lane diaries to formulate their own questions and decide how they would go about researching this information. Finally, as a result of this information search, students devised an action plan to find ways to actively campaign throughout the school to spread the message and increase awareness about the importance of reducing waste in our environment. Students enthusiastically created posters made from recycled materials. During whole school assembly, they used these posters to promote their campaign for a cleaner, greener school, and the posters were then prominently displayed throughout the school. They also organised a nude food day at school when all students were encouraged to bring fresh food lunches without unnecessary wrapping. Prizes of lunch boxes and badges designed and created by the students were offered as incentives. The ILA was closely aligned with the Australian science curriculum, with the students developing science understanding, exploring science as a human endeavour, and developing essential scientific inquiry skills. During this unit, students were asked to complete 3 reflective questionnaires to measure how knowledge of the topic developed and to track interest and skills in information seeking. These questionnaires were administered during Week 1, Week 4 and Week 8. From a class of 20 students, 17 completed the questionnaires and collected data was analysed using the SLIM toolkit. Additionally, students reflected on their learning in the Green Lane Diary each day, and those entries provided valuable feedback about their learning. A subgroup of 3 students, students X, Y and Z, was tracked to compare their responses to the results of the whole group. Question 1 explored students' existing knowledge of the topic. Students were required to state what they knew about waste reduction and the 6 R's. Their responses were categorised into knowledge statements as facts, explanations and conclusions. This graph illustrates student responses from the 3 questionnaires grouped according to statement types. It shows that students relied heavily on factual statements in their responses. However, it's evident that students' knowledge showed development towards explanations and conclusions throughout the inquiry process. According to Todd, Kultow and Heinstrom, this shows the development of intellectual quality, deeper knowledge and deeper understandings. This positive result shows that as students' knowledge of the topic deepened, they were able to express their understandings in more reflective and complex ways. An example of the deeper level of knowledge is demonstrated in the responses to question 1 by student X, who used statements of fact and explanation at the beginning of the unit, but was able to draw conclusions and give explanations by the third questionnaire. The second question explored students' interest in the topic. As can be clearly seen throughout the inquiry, only 3 to 4 students indicated that they were not interested at all or not really interested in the research task. The level of interest remained fairly consistent across the 3 questionnaires, with the majority of students showing a high level of interest. Only 1 student indicated no interest in the topic throughout the whole unit. In reviewing this student's responses, it was found that he used factual statements to respond to each questionnaire, which relates to findings by Coulthard, Heinstrom and Todd that students who remain at a descriptive level, rather than progressing to an analytical stage, tended to experience negative emotions throughout their research. Question 3 required students to indicate what they knew about the topic, and as the graph indicates, the perceived level of knowledge was quite high throughout the investigation. This was supported by observations and discussions with members of the target group, who indicated that it was a topic that they were familiar with from study in previous years. However, it's interesting to note that while they felt that they already knew a lot about the topic, their level of interest and engagement were maintained throughout the unit. An explanation of this could be that the students were responsible for deciding on the direction of the inquiry and so were actively involved in the problem-solving and decision-making process. As Rothstein and Santana state, when students know how to ask their own questions, they take great ownership of their learning, deepen comprehension, and make new connections and discoveries on their own. Student Z reinforced this statement by remarking that we came up with the idea of making posters from recycled materials, and I can't wait to show everyone else in the school so I can teach them all about what I've learnt. In question 4, students were asked to describe aspects of their research they found easy to do. To categorise these responses, I've grouped them in themes using the following headings. Information literacy skills include information gathering skills such as finding relevant and useful sites and information sources, and selecting and evaluating information. ICT skills include navigation on the internet, entering search terms, finding images, spelling and keyboard skills. Literacy skills include reading, analysing, collecting, organising and writing information. Targeted students in this research noted that they found finding the best sites and searching for the right information easy to do, and these comments are supported by the data collected for this graph. Across the questionnaires, students revealed that they were confident in their ability to locate and evaluate information from a wide variety of sources. This may be due to the fact that the students were given a lot of guidance and instructional intervention in locating sources suitable for their age group and topic as they entered the early exploration phase of the inquiry process. As Coulthard suggests, teachers and librarians who are aware of the possibility of increased frustration and anxiety at this phase can be ready to intervene in helpful ways. Students' responses indicate that they had a range of ICT issues in the early stages of the inquiry, which led to some user frustration. Confidence in ICT skills varied within the stages of the inquiry, decreasing during the second questionnaire as students were in the process of generating ideas, gathering evidence and creating posters and badges. However, towards the final stages of the unit, responses indicate that students' confidence and skills in technology improved. Students indicated that literacy skills such as reading all the information and putting it together to make sense and understanding the information in the book were easy at the start of the inquiry. However, this confidence seems to have waned by the end of the inquiry. This may be due to the students feeling that they had collected the required information and were ready to become actively involved in their action plans. As explained by student Y, I've got enough information, I just need to spread the word to everyone else. Question 5 asks students what they found difficult to do when researching. The majority of comments related to information literacy skills and included concerns such as scanning through the text for information, deciding which information is needed and which isn't, and thinking of the best words to type in the search bar. ICT skills, which the students found challenging, were changing between websites and getting back to the website after using a link. Student Y commented that he makes lots of spelling mistakes when typing in the search bar, while student Z showed frustration at not being able to access Instagrok on the computer because Google Chrome wasn't installed. Although the students were given support and assistance in using these ICT skills, the teacher and I are aware that this is an area that needs more focused attention in the future. Students listed only a few literacy skills that they had difficulty with during their research. These included reading all the information and deciding which is best, and writing the information in my own words. Question 6 asked the students to indicate what they had learnt during the project. To answer this, the teacher had the students write a reflection in class, including what they'd learnt, what they enjoyed most, and how this knowledge will make a difference to their lives in the future. Although a few students continued to list factual statements in their reflection, the majority gave responses that showed a deeper level of conceptual understanding. The responses were categorised according to the key terms in Bloom's digital taxonomy: remembering, understanding, applying, analysing, evaluating and creating. These categories range from the lower order skills of being able to recall facts to the higher order skills of planning and designing. Most of the students' responses came under the category of applying, indicating that students were able to use the skills that they had learned and were able to apply them to the tasks in the research project. Students were also confident with analysing skills that showed they were able to organise, outline and find information for a variety of purposes. A high percentage of responses showed understanding of the concepts and skills covered in this project. A positive outcome is that only a small percentage of students use basic recall of facts to express their learnings, while at the opposite end of the taxonomy, the skills of evaluating and creating were represented by only a small percentage of responses. These higher order skills require a much more sophisticated level of thinking and will hopefully be developed over time. The data gathered throughout this research project has provided useful information upon which to reflect when planning for inquiry learning in the future. The findings showed that most students were keenly interested in the project and developed their understanding and knowledge of the topic, as well as the inquiry process as a whole. Students were given the opportunity to write regularly in their Green Lane diaries, where they reflected on their achievements, ideas and thoughts on the research project. Most students recorded detailed entries, which have proven to be a great source of data for my research. This project has highlighted several areas for improvement. From a teaching perspective, there's a need to continue to teach a range of search strategies. This was evident after viewing the results of the first questionnaire, in which many of the students' responses showed frustration and confusion in their user experience. In my role as teacher librarian, I see this as a priority in order to assist students to locate relevant information as quickly and easily as possible. The essential goal for the future is to work collaboratively with teachers to plan inquiry learning units. This partnership will ensure that specific curriculum standards are met and that students are involved in meaningful inquiry tasks. While the 5Es model was well suited to this project, other inquiry models could also be investigated for further use in inquiry learning. Stripling's model of inquiry includes 6 stages in which the student is able to revisit a previous stage to ask additional questions or organise information as the need arises. This model emphasises the use of Web 2 technology and tools to support appropriate thinking skills. Another model which is appropriate for primary school inquiry learning is the inquiry cycle, which guides students using a range of relevant questions at each of the 6 stages: tuning in, finding out, sorting out, going further, making conclusions and taking action. Throughout this unit, the students have demonstrated not only information literacy skills, but a range of inquiry skills which will equip them to become lifelong learners. After analysing the ILA using the guest windows, it's evident that elements of all 3 guest windows, the generic, the situated and the transformative, were incorporated in the ILA, enabling students to use a range of information practices to transform oneself and society.